You might think three-eyed fish sound a little far-fetched, but there are a lot of examples of polluted rivers and lakes where wildlife has been hurt, deformed through mutation, or become as extinct as the dinosaurs. Once a species is gone, nothing we do can bring it back.
I just want to say that the name Winnipeg, it means muddy waters.
They're called sediments?
Sediment is tiny bits of dirt suspended in the water. That's what gives this water its muddy appearance. Some sediment is natural, like the mud in this river, but some of it is caused by things we do.
What about this stuff that floats around in here? Do you think that's pretty good, great stuff floating around in there? That doesn't look too great, huh? Okay, what happens when we get sediments in the water?
It's not as clear as it used to be.
This is our little river or creek, and there's a little plant going down here, and it can't get the light it needs. What's going to happen to that little plant?
The plant will die.
The plant will die. If the plants don't grow, the plants give off oxygen into the water. No oxygen in the water from the plants, what's going to happen to all the little fish and little animals and little buggies that live in the water?
They will die.
That's one problem. Another problem is there are some fish who, when they're in the ocean, the way they look for a mate, do you know what a mate is? A 29, okay, from Mr. McCloud. Looking for their 29, need to use their eyes to find their mate, okay? Now, if the water is like this, and if maybe we can throw some more in here, right? Make it look even better. If this water starts looking like this, okay, and we have fish in this water who use their eyes to find their mate, are they going to find the mate if they have to swim through water like this? No.
Everybody knows what this is called? Second disc? Okay, and this measures the amount of light in the water. What we want to do is lower it down to the point where we can no longer see the black and white lines. And then I want you to mark the point on the rope in which it disappears. Okay. Great. Okay. All right. We'll measure the distance of that. What does that read?
37, 38.
38 centimeters. So within 38 centimeters, the light has disappeared to the point where we can no longer see the sucky disc.
Have you ever noticed how a dark shirt you're wearing heats up in the sun? Too much sediment makes the water darker so that it absorbs more of the sun's energy and heats up. Many species of plants and animals can only live at certain temperatures.
All the parameters we test depend on the water temperature. Okay, so first of all, what we'll do is we'll get you guys to take a sample. Okay, we'll put your thermometer in there and let it stabilize. Okay, yours should have stabilized by now. What kind of reading do you have? And take your reading with the red tip in the water.
9.
When we get too many nutrients, we call it getting fat. When the water gets too many nutrients, we call it eutrophication.
Eutrophication. It's what happens when there are too many nutrients in the water. That causes algae to grow, which blocks the light the same way sediment does.
The green gooey stuff growing on top of the water is called algae.
Algae?
Algae, is that on the bottom?
And top.
And top. And is algae good or bad?
Bad for water life.
Bad for water?
Water life, like fish.
Water life. If there's too much of it. You're right. Why? Do you know why?
Because it eats up all the oxygen in the water.
It eats up all the oxygen in the water, and so what?
Fish can't breathe.
Fish can't breathe? What else is in the water that may be living?
Plants.
When algae die, they rot, and that uses up oxygen.
The extra nutrients might come from the fertilizer that he puts in so that his crops grow better.
Nutrients come from a number of places. Rain washes fertilizer from urban lawns and farmers' fields into rivers. Waste from industries can cause eutrophication, and so can runoff from garbage dumps. But the main cause is the detergents we use to wash our clothes. Low-phosphate detergents help, but not everyone uses them.
Okay, we're just going to spend a few minutes now making some visual observations. Without even doing any tests, there's a lot we can tell about our environment from just looking and smelling. Let's smell the water, see if it smells any particular fragrance. Can you smell anything?
Smells like a lot of sediments.
Yeah, it smells sort of earthy, doesn't it? And that's from all of the organic material, all of this vegetation that eventually ends up in the creek. And if you just look behind you here, you'll see that there's quite a bit of the surrounding area that has exposed sediments. And what happens when it rains is the water comes down the hill and it picks up those sediments and brings them into the river. So when we don't have a good vegetation buffer zone around a stream or a lake, you can get a lot of sediments. A lot of these plants produce seeds. And if we just have a look at the seed head on this, a lot of these will float off, will drop off into the water, and they'll provide food for ducks and other birds that feed in the water. If they're not eaten, a lot of these seeds will drop into the sediment here and they'll germinate next year. Usually there's a lot of insects and invertebrates in this type of environment. So what we have here, if we can just look, are a number of different kinds of snails, or two different kinds of snails anyway. These ones have all died and they're just the shells that are left. And there's a spider in one of these? Oh, look at that, he's found a dry place to live.
He was in my pocket.